Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand, sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Well, it's Friday, folks, and we made it through another week on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. And let me get back here so I know what I'm talking about. There we go. So, how you doing, Jack? I don't know if your wife is into flowers like my wife. My wife is all into flowers. She loves, I got her a cactus. You know, cactus normally flowers once a year. I know it's boring to you, but, you know, I just want to anyway.
Mac,
we have this cactus that flowers.
Mac, this is a disaster to start the show this way, an absolute disaster. If you got to talk about flowers to start a sports show, Mac, it's telling you
it's Valentine's Day.
And again, I forgot it's Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Valentine's Day. You reminded me.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you get your wife anything for Valentine's Day?
Well, we're going to go out later.
Okay,
we'll go out for lunch. That's better than flowers to me, going out for lunch.
Yes.
I mean, well, what's better? Getting your wife flowers and not going out for lunch, and not getting flowers and going out for lunch. What do you think?
I don't know. My wife's making me dinner at home, so you know. So that's pretty good. So, you know, I got. We're both former cooks, so we cook pretty well. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so let's get to the sports where we should be talking anyway. Yes. Aaron Rodgers officially released by Jets. So, Jack, I don't know what that conference. I know you were talking that maybe he was willing to do what they said of him. Maybe he wasn't. I'm not sure. But where does he go now?
Well, someone else is going to sign him. It's a question of who. I mean, it's too tempting not to sign Aaron Rodgers. And is he going to be a bridge quarterback? Is he just going to start? I mean, there are a few possible candidates. We'll see how the draft plays out. I mean, I can see certain stops for him. But does he want to go there? Is it going to be a good fit? I mean, I felt all along, going back from last year, he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers because they're in a win-now mode. I don't think they're thinking much about the future. And so that's a good fit from as far as the Raiders go. the Raiders might be in a position, according to the mock drafts, to maybe get Shador Sanders. Maybe they'll want to trade up. But obviously, Rodgers would be a better fit than Aiden O'Connell there. Okay? And, we'll see. And there's a little talk if the Tennessee Titans go for Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. Maybe Aaron Rodgers could be a fit over there. But then again, a team that's rebuilding is in the greatest situation, I think, for Aaron Rodgers. But he's going to wind up somewhere. It's just a question of where.
I mean, you would think with his legacy, right? He was MVP, Super Bowl winner. I mean, I know I give you a hard time about him, but he's been a very successful quarterback. And he has a legacy. I don't think he wants his legacy to be that he finished with a team that was, 4-12 or 4-13?
Well, 5-12. I don't know. Is he thinking so much as a legacy, long term? But the question is, does he want to play, Mac? I mean, how much you love of the game? It's hard for a guy to retire. Some guys just want to continue playing. They're used to the lifestyle. They're used to the routine. They're used to the money. And it's hard to walk away permanently from the game. I mean, if he still has an urge to play, he's going to play. But he's going to have I get the feeling he still wants to play. That's the feeling that I have. The Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers in large part because they want to start clean. It's the right thing to do, by the way. If I came in as a new Jet head coach, I would move on from Aaron Rodgers unless I knew I could draft one of the young quarterbacks. If I like Cam Ward, Shador Sanders a lot, or Quinn Ewers or whoever else, and I drafted them, and I let Aaron Rodgers know, the guy I'm drafting, that's the guy I want to be our quarterback of the future, but I can use you as a bridge quarterback for next season. Would you be interested in doing that? And then I tell him, look, if you play really, really well and you're outstanding, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go with the guy we drafted. We could extend, your time as a starter. If it could be done under those circumstances, tension-free, I'd do it. But Aaron Rodgers brings too many other things with him. Notice I didn't say the word baggage, because when you talk about a play like Devontae Adams, he's not baggage.
Yeah.
And some of the other personnel moves, like Alan Lazard, Nathaniel Hackett, Rodgers is going to want a little bit of a say in things to accommodate him, And I think the best thing to do is just, cut ties, move forward if you're Aaron Glenn, because it's about creating a culture. And with Aaron Rodgers there, you're not quite creating the new culture you want to. And this is no knock on Aaron Rodgers. It's just the way it is.
True. San Francisco to pay Brock Purdy between 55 to 65 million per year. I don't know about you, Jack, but I think that's way too much. I mean, I know they talk about the market. Who sets the market but the team? You're setting the market. So Brock Purdy to me is a system quarterback. He's not a person that you can depend on putting you over top. He hasn't done it yet. So to me, that's way too much money for Brock.
I think he's more than a system quarterback. And last year, the whole Niner team had a down year. Purdy wasn't bad last year. I mean, he had a lot of injuries with his offensive players. But look at Purdy's whole body of work. I mean, he's better than a Jared Goff, for example. He's a better quarterback than him. I mean, clearly, Purdy's a top 10 quarterback in the league. I could say that very comfortably. He's one of the better quarterbacks. If I told you he's better than Dak Prescott, I don't think you can give me a big argument there. I mean, Purdy's been outstanding, and he's gotten way underpaid. He was getting less than $1 million a year. And now he's going to be a free agent. Listen, Purdy becomes a free agent. If I'm the Jets or the Giants, I have no apprehension in signing him and giving him the money and letting him be my franchise quarterback. I have none at all.
Well, if you're the Jets or Giants, you wouldn't have a problem with Dak Prescott coming over either and being the quarterback.
I mean, I would be happy with Dak Prescott. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, you're correct. No, him and Dak Prescott, you could say are pretty close. Who's better than who, if you want to. That's fine. But the point is, if you look at the quarterback market, Purdy compares, comparably to it. There are few elite quarterbacks in the game. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. You could throw Jalen Hurts in the mix now. Won the Super Bowl. So Jalen Hurts could tag on the back end of that group. I'm not going to tell you for one moment that Jalen Hurts is as good as Joe Burrow, because he isn't. But he's in the same. He could be in the same car, maybe in the back seat, but he could ride in the same car with those guys now. With what he did. And Brock Purdy is, close to that caliber, a little behind that. And look, it was just 1 year ago, Mac. Brock Purdy handed the San Francisco 49er defense the game with a 3-point lead. They got the ball in overtime in the Super Bowl, and he took them down for a field goal. If the 49er defense held the Chiefs, they would have been Super Bowl champions. What would we be saying about Brock Purdy now, if that were the case?
Yeah, but that's not what happened. They didn't. In fact, score a touchdown. If you're the leader of the team, if you're the guy that makes a play, score a touchdown. Don't just get in position for a field goal.
Okay, but Brock, my point is Brock Purdy's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. And when you have a top 10 quarterback, you want to pay him. But you have some rising young quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels, who you want to see a little more before you put him in the mix as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You kind of want him to do it again, like we wanted C.J. Stroud to do it again. And C.J. Stroud was so his second year. So we're not ready to call C.J. Stroud a top 5 quarterback. Maybe he's hanging around the top 10, 9 or 10 or thereabouts, which is fine. But, you want to see, a little more of a body of work. But Brock Purdy seems to have a body of work. This was his worst year last year. And again, look at all the injuries to his offensive lineman, Trent Williams, to Christian McCaffrey, to Deebo Samuels, who they're moving on from.
Yeah. But, Jack, you're talking a body of work. He had those players with him then. He had the Kittle. He had Deebo. He had all those players you're talking about, except for maybe Christian McCaffrey was gone for quite a bit. So I just think that he's a system quarterback. I don't think he's a put you over the top quarterback, or he would have done it by now. He's had a few shots.
He took his team to the Super Bowl, and he played well in the Super Bowl. It's not a Jared Goff situation who you could say, well, he took the Rams to the Super Bowl, but he played poorly in the Super Bowl. That's the difference involved. Purdy, if you're going to hold anything against him, you could say the Niners had a bad year last year. He was so. But is that reflective of the type of quarterback he is? I could point to a lot of elite quarterbacks and say they were like so. People even now saying about Patrick Mahomes based on one game, they might be saying, is he really, the best quarterback in the NFL anymore? I even question that, not talking about his accomplishments, what he is at this moment. But I'll tell you this, if Patrick Mahomes became available, you'd easily find a number of teams that would make him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL without any apprehension.
Agreed. Speaking of quarterbacks, Saints head coach was non-committal of Derek Carr being team starting quarterback this year. Now, this don't mean he's not going to be. I think it just means they're kind of waiting and seeing what's going to happen. So, I still think Derek Carr is the best option they have there in New Orleans.
You could call him the best out of the worst. That's Derek Carr. Who else is Kellen Moore going to use as his quarterback to start if it's not Derek Carr? From past shows, I'm not a Derek Carr fan. I don't think he's a starting NFL caliber quarterback, even though he can play well for stretches. I realize that he's not your long-term answer, but you can't win with him over periods of time. I understand that. But that's kind of revealing. If he's not ready to commit to Derek Carr as a starter, who's in reserve? Who else do they have? It doesn't make
The
any
Rattler,
sense.
man.
I mean,
That Rattler.
Spencer Rattler, he filled in, but he kind of seemed to be ordinary. And
Yeah.
I think Kellen Moore is setting a pretty poor culture if he tells both quarterbacks to come to camp and compete for the job. Because one guy wins, the other guy loses. How many times have we seen these coaches call for a quarterback competition, but they have their mind made up beforehand, and one guy outplays the other guy in the competition, yet he doesn't get the job.
We've seen that.
I just don't like to set up. We've seen enough of Derek Carr to know what he could do. Spencer Rattler gave you a body of work last season, so that Saints should know whether they want to go forward with Rattler as their starting quarterback. They don't need to see any more in training camp. They should have a good idea. Kellen Moore should just announce Derek Carr's our starter, but he knows he's got to play well going forward. Okay? It doesn't mean he's necessarily going to be the starter the whole year. If he doesn't play well, we'll look at other options. I mean, that would be playing hardball, but that would at least his quarterback would know he's the starter and what the situation is.
Yes. Pittsburgh calling Jacksonville about Trevor Lawrence. Now, I mean, is Trevor Lawrence, Jack? Do you think that the Jags would actually give up Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, what does Pittsburgh have to get Trevor Lawrence? Are they kidding?
Right.
They don't have a high draft pick. They called. Anyone could call for whatever. I mean, I called ESPN to put on First Take over there. I mean, are we going to announce that on this show? And come on.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone could put in a call to Trevor Lawrence. Could Jacksonville conceivably move on from Trevor Lawrence? I mean, it's conceivable in the sense that Trevor Lawrence has been disappointing. I got a new coach there. Maybe he's not the biggest Trevor Lawrence fan, but who's going to quarterback the Jacksonville Jaguars now? I mean, are they going to make a flip-flop or whatever? I think Justin Fields and Russell Wilson are free agents anyway, I believe. So I don't think Pittsburgh could exactly trade him. And it's not like Pittsburgh has all this draft capital. They go in the draft in the 20s somewhere. So, a first-round draft choice in the low 20s or mid-20s or wherever they go isn't going to get it done, and a number one next year. I wouldn't do it if I'm Jacksonville, if I have any faith still in Trevor Lawrence. Only if Jacksonville really is going to throw in the towel with Trevor Lawrence, make a deal like that, because who else is going to quarterback your team? What better option are you going to have if you're Jacksonville? And unless you want to get rid of his contract, that it's so enormous.
Don't they have the first? They do have the first round draft pick, right? Jacksonville does.
Yeah,
Jacksonville, right? They have their first round draft.
They do.
Okay, so they could draft. They could draft a quarterback. Pittsburgh was talking about maybe throwing Pickens in there, like you said, a few draft picks.
Pickens is trouble. He's trouble. Why would they want him? I mean,
I don't know, Jack. I'm just telling you.
You don't take another team's baggage. Pickens would be made available because he's a lightning rod. He's a pain in the butt. It's not beyond comprehension something could be done with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, a year ago, I would have said it's crazy. It's not even worth talking about. But the point is, Mac, Trevor Lawrence has been disappointing. And maybe Jacksonville is thinking, new coach, whatever. They don't think he's going to pan out and be the great quarterback he was projected to be when he came out of Clemson. So, it's not crazy, but it comes under the category of very highly unlikely.
All right. The Chiefs give Travis Kelce a March 14th deadline due to the $12.5 million signing bonus that he would get if he decides to stay on. I saw Kelsey talking on his podcast. He says he needs some time to think about it. I've seen other stars that were former players saying, well, I knew it was time to go. And then, and it's time to go. It's time to go. So there's kind of a mixture of Kelsey. I'm trying to remember the guy on ESPN who said it also. He's a former defensive back anyway for the Steelers. I mean, is he too old, Jack? Does he want to go through all the training? Does he want to go through everything again? I don't know. I mean, he's got Taylor Swift waiting for him. So, I mean, why not have the good life?
It depends how motivated he is, how badly he wants to play. I mean, these players love the game too. It's more sometimes than about the money, and it's more so, it's more than just being on top. Okay, sometimes some of these guys have a love of the game. Like we were saying before, it's a routine. They're used to this routine in life since they've been a kid, getting ready for the game from college and Kansas City Chiefs. And you want to wake up in the morning and have your routine. You're working out. You're going to the training facility. If you don't have that anymore, it's difficult. I imagine he's speaking to his brother Jason about the adjustment. And it was really hard with Jason. Jason would go to the Eagles facility, Jason Kelsey, to work out, to just be a part of it. You kind of enjoy being a part of the group. You enjoy the excitement. It's hard staying home. Look, I ran 4 New York City marathons in a row. And when I didn't run it the year after the 5th year, it was so hard not being a part of it, staying home, watching it on TV. But in the questions to Jason Kelsey, also the long-term effects of playing football, I'm not even sure he's considering that, because a lot of players don't think of the back end of their life, the effects it could have. And then there's the question, too, with the Kansas City Chief organization. They might think that he's slow a step. Is he this? Is he that? Yeah. But even a Jason Kelsey, a Travis Kelsey, who's slow to step, is still probably better than the majority of tight ends in the NFL. And we'll see how motivated he is. And I don't know, will he be ready to give an answer in a few weeks? Remains to be seen.
Well, part of the biggest...
You started the show, Mac, with the Valentine's Day thing, where I rudely interrupted you. My apologies. But you bring up the Taylor Swift and the Valentine's Days thing and all. Why do we keep linking Travis with Taylor Swift? He's a football player. You say, well, she's waiting for him. Well, if he wants to be in an exciting atmosphere, he could follow her on tour, this and that. But there's nothing like playing the game. Playing the game.
That was the problem last year. He was following at Turner concerts. He came in out of shape.
You think he was out of shape?
Yeah, I think he was out of shape. And I think it showed, especially, this guy's been playing football for years, Jack, and not just regular season. You're talking postseason games, too. It wears you down. Last year, he decided to follow Taylor around the world at concerts, and it showed. It showed, especially by the end of the year.
Well, I will say this. If you're an athlete, and especially you're getting older, you've got to maintain that high level edge the whole time. And if you're traveling a lot, you're staying out late at nights, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not living the life. Okay? It takes something out of you. I mean, take one of the greatest athletes of our generation, Michael Jordan, of all time. Michael Jordan hardly slept by all accounts. He'd be up all night playing cards, this and that. And I'm a big believer, you got to get enough sleep. You got to get enough rest. You got to be focused. You got to be working out pretty hard year round to maintain it at an older level. And LeBron James seems to be doing that. Okay, that's why he's playing into so well into such an advanced stage.
Yeah. Saquon Barkley defends Taylor Swift. He doesn't know why they were booing her, and Saquon's just a nice guy. I mean, Saquon to me.
Why was anyone booing her? What did she do wrong? I mean, to get
I know they showed her. They showed her on the screen during the game, and I guess the Eagle fans were booing her.
The Eagle, because she grew up supposedly an Eagle fan, was from the area. Her father was an Eagle fan. So now she's rooting for the Chiefs because her husband, to be in all probability, by all appearances, is playing for Kansas City. What is wrong with that, Mac? What is wrong with that? What would that do for her relationship if she'd be rooting for the Eagles to be, for Travis's team to lose? I mean, that's what with these fans. Are these fans stupid or something, or mean or whatever? I mean, we had Phil Simms on our show. He said if his brother was playing, against the Giants, he'd be rooting for his brother. Now, Jason Kelsey, I listened to him the other day. He did the podcast with Travis. He said watching the game was awful for him. It was one of his worst experiences ever because obviously he loves the Eagles, the organization. He played with those guys. He's very close with those guys. Look, he was the center who would snap the ball to Jalen Hurts. So he loves all the guys on the team, the coach, the quarterback. But his brother Travis is playing for the Chiefs. So he just sat there and he says, this is awful to watch this game. I mean, he deep down, he wants Travis to win, but he can't root against the Eagles. He can't root for the Eagles to lose, and he can't root for the Eagles to win. You know what? It was an awful experience, him watching the game. He hated it. He hated, hated everything about it.
So Keith Engel's not in today, so we'll try and tackle some of this college news. There's a video game that likeness, college players likeness, with hundreds of players, a way to make money. Believe it or not, the NFLPA, Casey Schwab is involved in this. Now, I didn't know the NFLPA had anything to do with the college players, but I guess they do. Each player receives $1,500 up front, plus the residuals of the video as people buy it. So I know you don't like talking about NIL too much, Jack, but this is a big story for college.
So what do you think? I mean, how should it be resolved?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it is resolved. That's what it is. It is what it is. I mean, they're gonna give these players some $1,500 up front, and whatever's left out, like a rerun.
Well, let me tell you, NCAA ruined things for decades and decades with their greed, their selfishness, their restrictions on athletes, and their abuse to a large degree. If an athlete was in pain and he needed an emergency root canal done, and the coach took him there and he got the medical treatment, there would have been penalties with the NCAA in the past. Yeah. I mean, that's how bad they were. Okay. And all the money involved, the athletes, would have to work side jobs. I mean, going beyond the normal side job to earn this or that. And, that they brought it all on, and now it's come back to bite them.
Sure has. Ohio State hires Mike Patricia as their defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt Patricia as their defensive coordinator. I don't know. Is it Matt Patricia a good defensive coordinator?
Well,
I don't.
Bill Belichick obviously thought highly enough of him, and he was successful as an assistant coach on Belichick's staff. Then he became head coach of the Detroit Lions, and did an awful job. Let's tell it like it is. Just didn't get it done. Okay, maybe I'm being a little harsh, so I'll retract the word awful. Didn't do a good job. Let's put it that way. That's obvious. Went back to the Patriots for Belichick. Belichick experimented between him and Joe Judge, calling the plays that went terribly. And now he's at college, but coordinators' jobs at college are more prestigious than ever now. I mean, it used to be thought of being a demotion if you were coordinating the NFL, and now you accepted the same role in college. But now, in certain ways, it could be even looked at as a promotion, in a sense. That's how advanced college football is.
Wide receiver Jerome Bettis Jr. signs with Notre Dame. Of course, son of Jerome Bettis, the running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As we were talking before the show, it's kind of a legacy. He could go there. Well, he could go anywhere, really. He doesn't have to go to Notre Dame. But he did sign with the Fighting Irish as a wide receiver. And, he'll probably be good. His father was good. He's probably going to be good, too.
Well, his father's a running back, and he's a receiver.
For the Steelers.
A lot of times it's in the genes, and it's not always a gimme, even though it's usually the case that if the father's been a legend at the university, the son might follow him there. But there could be certain pressures, but that's not always the case. Peyton Manning, for example, he didn't go to Ole Miss, even though his dad, Archie Manning, was a legend at Ole Miss, maybe the greatest player in Ole Miss history. Archie Manning went to Tennessee. But then when it came time for Eli to go to college, Archie got involved and he pushed the issue. I guess he wanted Eli to go to Ole Miss. And, it all depends. On Arch Cooper, for example, his dad was a receiver for a little while at Ole Miss before he was forced to retire because of a medical condition. But Arch Manning didn't follow his grandfather Arch and his uncle Eli as a quarterback at Ole Miss. He went to Texas. It's not always a legacy thing.
Just to shift gears for a minute. Travis Hunter, projected to go in the top 3. A defensive back. They say he might get some work in wide receiver. I mean, Travis Hunter to me is a defensive back. You want him to be wide receiver, maybe down the line. That's why I would draft him for a defense, not as a wide receiver, Jack.
You are hurting your team if you restrict him to one side of the ball 100% of the time. I understand it might be too overwhelming to be a starter at cornerback and wide receiver. That's understood. But there's no reason he can't be your full-time cornerback and a situational wide receiver. Okay? There's no reason at all why that can't be the case. And if you're drafting him and you strictly have him on one side of the ball, and would probably be cornerback, that would be my guess, you're harming the team. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants drafted him and they did that, because Joe Shine seems to be their GM, a little clueless at times, okay, and what he's doing. So that's what I think the Giants would basically do. They would draft him to play exclusively at cornerback, but of course pressure would mount over time to maybe give him a couple of touches of wide receiver here or there. But, you're playing as much as he can handle the workload. We don't know how he's young. Chances are he can handle the workload and start at both positions.
Yeah. Switching gears, go to NBA right now. Ben Simmons, signed by the Clippers in his first game. He had 12 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. I mean, seems like he's not afraid to shoot anymore. His rebounds are pretty good.
He got to make about 7 shots, Mac. Don't tell me he's not afraid. He's terrified to shoot. It was his first game. He was psyched. He shot, maybe like 7 times, and then went to the foul line and played a good game, got some rebounds and assists. His first game, he was psyched. He's terrified to shoot. He never shoots in double-digit numbers over a game. I mean, I can't remember the last time he shot in double-digit numbers. What was it, 3-4 years ago? Come on, he's terrified to shoot the ball.
He only played for 7 minutes, Jack. It's not like he played the whole
27. I think he played a lot more.
Okay.
27
minutes. Okay.
I believe so. Okay.
Okay.
You got to
All
check back at that. Yeah, and that's a lot. That's a fair amount of minutes. It's not like he was lighting it up. He's not a new Ben Simmons. He's not a new man who's turned over a new leaf. I mean, Ben Simmons can help a team off the bench as a role player defensively. He's a good defensive player. He's not a player who you study his numbers in the box score too much. He'll grab you some rebounds, get you some assists, play some decent defense at the perimeter. Yeah, he can help, but he's not an impact player.
Yeah. There will be 4 All-Star teams this year instead of 2, Jack, but the excitement is going to build there. You got Kenny Young's All-Star, Chuck Global Stars. I guess that's Barkley. Shaq's OGs, and Sanderson's Stars. And of course, it's going to be more than one game. They're going to have to play, one loses, one wins. I mean, I don't know what this does for the All-Star game.
Pathetic. It shows you how bad the All-Star game was. Basketball's the one sport you can play an All-Star game. You can play it. You can play it the right way, but they don't play defense. I mean, I'm a big believer. You want to make the game interesting. Both teams who are picked to the All-Star game have to play the game. The winning team, every player should get $1 million. The losing team gets nothing. That's what you do for the All-Star game. And believe me, for $1 million, no matter how wealthy they are, some of these players, everyone is putting out. Everyone is putting out, okay, for that piece of change. And, all it's basically heaving 3-pointers. It's, boring. I mean, it's like a boring playground game, the way it had been played. So now they're trying all these gimmicks, all these silly gimmicks. The NFL's doing it too. You think I paid any attention to the Manning thing with kicking this and that? That was beyond silly to me. Hearing the Mannings joking around. I mean, leave me alone. I mean, but in football, I can understand. Tough game. You don't want the tackling, the bumps, the bruises, especially the players who fell a little out of shape at the end of the regular season, and now you want them a few weeks later to play in an All-Star game. I can understand that. But a couple of the sports, you can play the game hard, and that's in basketball, and that's in baseball. And in hockey as well, you can. And that's how it should be played. But you got to motivate the players and the teams to play the game the right way. You have to set up a scenario where they're going to do it. Not have these silly exhibitions. Well, the Charles Barkley team is playing Bozo the Clown's team. Come on.
What happened to pride, Jack? What happened to pride in yourself and the players you play with? I mean, the heck with money. They make enough money. They ain't no more money. I mean, the closest thing to me to the All-Star game is the Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, everybody wants to have a good game. The pitchers want to pitch well. The batters want to bat well. It's to me closest you can get to a real All-Star game still today.
Baseball's a selfish game. You're right, Mac. You make a good point. Certain things won't happen in baseball. Running the bases, chances are the players won't go all out on the base paths. They might not dive for a ball the same way. We don't know. But we know the pitchers are going to try to get batters out. Absolutely. They have pride. They're not just going to serve the ball up. And the hitters are going to want to get hits, get on base. So the baseball game can be made interesting, except for this, Mac. No one cares anymore, or they hardly care who wins between the American League and the National League. It used to be a big thing, the importance of winning that game. One of the negative parts of my childhood, Mac, was being an American League fan and watching the National League win 19 out of 20 years. That was torture. Every year I would be so upset, waiting for the next year for the American League to win. And next year would really never come around. Because again, they would lose the American League. And then all of a sudden into adulthood, the American League wins something like 8 All-Star games in a row. But it had gotten to the point, well, who cares anymore? Because there's no longer an identity of an American and National League. In football, there's no serious identity who's better, the AFC or the NFC. We don't care that much. We don't care that much in the NBA, the East against the West. We just don't.
Yeah. Ian Watson says the All-Star games were the All-Star game was awesome in the 2000s. Even before
no, before that, Aiden, before that, it was awesome. It started getting, kind of weak during the time you
watered
said.
Down.
Yeah, watered down.
Yeah, So, yeah. Let's see. And then Major League, we're talking about MLB. Ohtani set up to throw a bullpen session after an 18-month layoff. Jack, the Dodgers have plenty of pitching. They got plenty of hitting. Why do you want to take a chance? And I've said this 100 times. Have Ohtani get hurt pitching again. There's no reason for it anymore. I mean, there's never been a reason for it, really. I guess maybe with the Angels, but not with the Dodgers. The Dodgers got an all-star team. Why do they need him pitching?
Well, I'm going to tell you the reason you want Ohtani to pitch, because he's arguably your best pitcher on the team. Arguably. Okay? And Ohtani's outstanding as a pitcher. Outstanding. If you could have him pitch, you have him pitch. Even if he's a situational pitcher who gets in the game in relief once in a while. Yeah, absolutely. When you have Ohtani's a weapon as a pitcher. Are you kidding me? You don't want to. What are you going to do? Have him completely as a DH? You're going to baby these guys.
What he did last year. That's what he did last year.
A DH. The next thing, don't play him on the field. Do you know how crazy things have become in sports, babying these guys with pitch counts, this and that? When Tom Seaver played for the Mets, he was used as a pinch runner. The guy who was called the franchise ace pitcher, he was used as a pinch runner from time to time. Imagine you did that today. You brought in your ace pitcher as a pinch runner.
Well,
the media be all over the place. How could you take the risk of him getting injured and this and that? I mean,
I don't think they're in the
Dodgers.
State. I don't think the players are in shape like they used to.
He couldn't get hurt.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. He pitched for the Angels, Jack. All I'm saying is, why do you want to put yourself in a position where Ohtani can hurt his arm again and then can't hit? To me, you've got an all-star team. You don't need him doing that. If you're going to use him, like you said, part-time, like they did with Babe Ruth, here and there, you spot start him. Okay. But that would be it. That would be it for me.
Well, I would leave a lot up to Ohtani, seeing how he feels, what he can handle. If he feels fine, and I don't anticipate them putting him in the starting rotation, but let's say Ohtani can handle that. Let's say he feels fine and he wants to be in it. Thanks, Ricardo. Then, allow him to do it. I mean, we hear all this nonsense of babying players. Think of Aaron Judge. Oh, let's play him in right field because of all the wear and tear playing center field. Aaron Judge has stayed healthy playing center field for the Yankees. He hasn't been hurt. I mean, there's not that much more movement. For the most part, outfielders go to their position at the start of the inning. They throw the ball around a few times, and then they're waiting to see as the ball hit to them. So if a player has to cover a little more ground, it doesn't mean he's going to get hurt. Aaron Judge got hurt in right field. He hasn't gotten hurt in center field. I mean, enough
Yeah.
with babying these guys. I mean, Mac, it gets to be crazy. I mean, especially coming from you, who used to point to the high pitch counts of pitchers who would stay healthy and pitch their whole career. I mean, if a guy has a certain injury, you're extra careful with Ohtani. You want to be sure he's 100% healthy before you make any moves, and you keep an eye on him all along, of course. But you're going to turn one of these great talents into a full-time DH? Come on.
That's what he was last year. Full-time DH.
That's what he was.
So,
Absolutely. Okay, but he could help you on the mound, and he'd be devastating. Ohtani, if he only pitched, would be a number 2 starter on most staffs on their rotation. He'd be projected as the number 2 starter on a staff. On some staffs, he would be the number 1 starter.
Well, why doesn't he play right field for the Dodgers, and then if they need him at the end, he can come in relief?
That's fine. That plan is fine, Mac. You can use him as a situational relief pitcher if you want, but I'll tell you, Dodgers just signed Tanner Scott. Dodgers got a great bullpen. They got a great bullpen, and they don't have to go to Ohtani right now, but they want to find out whether he could pitch, whether he'll be ready. If someone goes down with an injury, maybe Ohtani gets slotted in. They're not going to put him in the starting rotation and have him go every 5 days or whatever. They'll kind of slot him in at the right time. He'll be a situational starter, situational reliever. He might start a game, Mac, and give you 3 innings at the start of the game, and then they take him out and they go to their bullpen. I could see something like that.
Bullpen game or something like that. Yeah, I can see that too.
Yeah.
Stroman not participating in workouts, and I guess Boone's okay with that.
Well, what else is Boone going to say? What else is Boone going to say? He should get his rear end.
Say the truth. Say the truth. Say the guy should be here working out with us.
No. Well, first off, I'm not the biggest Marcus Stroman fan. I think he's a lightning rod. I think he speaks out of place a number of times. So I'm not the biggest Marcus Stroman fan. Let me be upfront about it. But I'm going to defend him in this instance. These are voluntary workouts. According to the Players Union, he doesn't have to report until February 24th. So I believe it's February 24th, the date. So it's all voluntary. The Yankees can't find him. The Yankees can't do anything but say they wish he was here. All the other players show up, but it's not legal that Marcus Stroman does so. So this is Marcus Stroman's way of protesting. But what the heck are you protesting about, Marcus? You pitched miserably last year. That's why you were left off the World Series roster. You were left off the divisional playoff roster as well. You pitched miserably. That's why you're not in the top 5 in the Yankee rotation penciled in. But the Yankees owe him $18 million this year. And if he pitches 140 innings this season, I think they'll owe him another $18 million or thereabouts. So the Yankees are looking to get rid of Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman knows that. No one wants to take that contract. If I'm Marcus Stroman, I show up at camp and I am ready to go. Ignore the fire trucks in the back. I am ready to go and do whatever they want and prove I can still pitch well. And I'm going to tell you, all it takes is one injury to Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rondon, Luis Gil, or Clark Schmidt, who are your starting 5. If one of them gets injured, guess what? Marcus Stroman gets slotted into that spot, and he can prove then that he could still pitch well. And now he either goes to 140 innings for the Yankees if he's still on the team and they got to pay him next year, or another team trades for him and his value is there and he keeps his career going. But by playing this game of being stubborn, oh, I'm insulted, I'm not on the starting rotation, you left me off the World Series roster, not returning to camp, he sets bad vibes, and he's not helping himself.
I agree, Jack. I mean, listen, your ace is there. Garrett Cole doesn't have to be there. He's there. So, I mean, come on, dude. I mean,
everyone is there, Mac. Everyone is there, but him.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Alex Bregman signs a 3-year, $120 million contract with the Red Sox. It's a little bit. The numbers are a little different as they work it out. I think it's $90 million. He spreads something out or whatever. But he was a former third baseman and will be playing second. Of course, they got their third baseman there. I don't know if this is going to hurt Bregman or not, being moved from third to second. It's different. There's different angles. Third baseman is normally hot shots. Second baseman is a lot like shortstop. I don't know if he plays as good as he would at third base, Jack.
Yeah, I don't understand Bregman's move all in all. I mean, $40 million a year is great. Okay, it's deferred, maybe $30 million out of that. I don't know, but he was offered more by the Detroit Tigers. He could have probably gone to the Tigers and for a 6-year deal in the last 3 years would have averaged out to maybe about $20 million a year. But he would have been at the back end of his career, more or less, those 3 years. So that money would have been good, even though it's less than what it is now. It would have been very good. He has opt-outs after the first, second year, and the third year, obviously, as well. But if he, I guess he's looking to have a big year this year and then sign maybe a nice 5-year deal somewhere else next year. I'm not sure what to make out of this contract. I think the Red Sox are overpaying by a little, but I think the reason the Red Sox are overpaying is because of Alex Cora, their manager. He was with Bregman at Houston. Okay? Because he was with Bregman at Houston over there, he likes him a lot. He knows the player. He badly wanted him, and he pushed the Red Sox, front office ownership. You got to get Bregman. You got to get Bregman. He probably pushed for Bregman harder than he's done to anyone else since he's been the Red Sox manager. So they got it done. And I think the move, if Bregman kind of tapers off, doesn't do that well, he's going to lose money in the long run from what he could have gotten with the Tigers and so on. But in a sense, he's betting on himself to do well in this year and then become a free agent at the end of the year and then get, a little more of a solid deal. In worst case scenario for Bregman, he plays the 3 years and gets the $120 million, some of it deferred. So Bregman comes out well no matter what, even though there's a scenario where maybe he could have done better to just take a 6-year deal at the most he could have gotten from the Tigers, which would have been maybe $170 million from the Tigers for 6 years rather than 120 for 5 years from, for 3 years, from the, Red Sox.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Bregman has a great bat. I think like the last so many years he's led third basemen in home runs or something like that. He's got a real good bat. So that will help Boston, especially in the Green Monster. He's a righty. I mean, that will help him out offensively.
You talk about the worst free agent signing in baseball history. Had to be the Angels signing Anthony Rendon, who's supposedly out for the season again.
Yeah,
they gave him what? I forgot what they gave, like $35 million a year for how many years? It seems like he's on that contract forever. and he's been an absolute disaster. And, you know, it's hard to believe a player's been so hurt year after year after year. And he didn't do himself any favors by, you know, saying a year ago, baseball's just a job. There are more important things. You know, it comes off really bad. I know the Carl Pavano signing with the Yankees, 4 years, $40 million at the time, was considered terrible. And Pavano for 4 years seemed to be injured the whole time. Some people were skeptical of that. And then when Pavano left the Yankees, he actually pitched somewhat well for the Twins, I believe.
Yeah, it's very true. Well, folks, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks for your comments and hopefully possible shares later. That'll be it for us. We'll see you tomorrow on the Mac and Jack and James debate show, where we'll debate some pretty awesome topics. And that'll be, and then the Sunday big football show too. So we got a weekend lined up for you. And remember, water your cactus. Yeah, water your cactus. Very important that you do that. Folks, have a great day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And Matt, good start of the show, acknowledging Valentine's Day. I shouldn't have cut it.
Thank you, Jack.